let's talk about how you can outline an entire nonfiction book within a weekend. Okay. Now, most people overcomplicate this part of the process. They start to get in their own head. What content should I include? How am I going to position this? How am I going to organize it? How am I going to structure it? And I've seen this over and over and over again. And that's why I've really focused on what is the shortest and simplest way to create a really great outline that not only will help you get everything from your head onto paper, but it'll also set you up to write a really great book. And this is the same thing that I teach my clients in our Big Idea to Bestseller live events, as well as in our coaching program. And I want to give you a little bit of the inside scoop here so that you can write your book this weekend or outline it in an hour or so, or whatever time period it takes you to complete this exercise. I've seen people do it in 30 minutes. I've seen people do it in 2 hours, but I'm going to give you the process, and then it's up to you to implement this. That's the name of the game here. So there's really 3 steps to outlining your book. And I like to break it down into superheroes. Okay, I call this the Avengers process. And step 1, phase 1, is the Spider-Man phase. Now, the Spider-Man phase, let's keep it simple. Spiders, what do? They shoot. Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Tobey Maguire, right? He's spitting out webs, right? Tom Holland, amazing. And in a web, the strongest part's always the center. In the center of your spider web, you're throwing your main topic. This is what the idea of the whole book's about. Then, just like in a spider web, the further you branch out, the more you have a full web. Well, all of the branches of your spider web are going to be the things that you can teach. So when it comes to the Spider-Man phase, there's a few steps to create this. Number 1 is this is the educational part of your book. So this is where you're going to write down every single thing that you can teach. Okay, what do you know? What can you tell somebody? What is the order of which you would tell someone? And all you're going to do in this phase is you're going to spend some time and you're just going to brain dump. You're going to write down as many things as you possibly can about what you can teach on the topic that is your book. Now, bonus points if you already have a order of which you want to teach somebody something. For example, when I did my outline and I did the Spider-Man phase for my book, Big Idea to Bestseller, what I did was I knew the process of how to write and launch a book. So I started kind of writing it in the order of which I would teach it. To go further in depth, I talked about outlining before I talked about writing. I talked about outlining before I talked about publishing. Okay. I talked about editing your book before launching your book. Why? Because that is the order in which someone will have the best chance of success because of what I'm going to teach them. So that's the Spider-Man phase. Take everything that you can teach somebody, write it down. Bonus points, you can write it down in an order. If not, don't worry about it because you can address it by commonalities. Moving on to step 2. Phase 2 is the Ant-Man phase. All right. One ant is a pretty insignificant creature, but when you have a lot of ants, they can move mountains. They can do a lot of things. So your Ant-Man phase of your outline, this is when we're going to create a lot of supplemental material for our book. This is where we're going to create our stories, our experiences, our transformation, and start writing that down. So here's how you do the Ant-Man phase. Here's how you do this. You're going to spend a little bit of time and you are going to just create a list of everything that you've experienced. This is going to be, what was your personal transformation? Okay. A lot of times we see people write books. They were in one place. They experienced something. They came out on the other side. Talk about that transformation. Talk about stories from your personal experience that relates to your main topic. Talk about success stories that you've helped other people achieve the same thing. Talk about the key problems that you solve. What could you address? What are the questions, the FAQs, the things that are most common for you? And then, of course, write down things that are outside inspiration. An example of this is if I'm talking about habits, I'm using habits to write a book, maybe I'll quote James Clear's Atomic Habits because that could be really relevant and support what I am teaching for someone to learn, okay? Your Ant-Man phase is all about entertainment, okay? This is everything that you've experienced. So to recap, phase 1 is your Spider-Man phase. This is all of the education. This is what you can teach. Phase 2 is all about entertainment. This is all about what you've experienced. When you combine the education, That's the credibility, that's the teaching, that's the results-driven stuff. With the experience-based stuff, that is everything that is going to be relatability, trust, believing that you can actually solve their problem. When you combine those two, that's when we go into the third phase. And the third phase, I call it the Iron Man phase. And I call it this because in the first Iron Man movie, Robert Stark is supposed to, or Tony Stark, Tony Stark is supposed to, I was thinking Robert Downey Jr., but we're talking here, I'm combining the two, actor, character, come on now. But we're talking about Tony Stark, okay? And what he does in that first movie is he is captured and he has to take all these raw materials. He takes whatever he can get and he puts it together, and that becomes the prototype for what became the Iron Man suit. You're going to do the same thing with your book. In the Iron Man phase, you're going to take everything from your first step, the education step, what you can teach, and you're going to take everything from the second phase, the experience, the entertainment phase, and you're going to partner them with each other to create individual chapters. And so if you want to get nitty-gritty on this, you may pull out a story from the second phase. You may tie that with a lesson, something that you can teach from the first phase, and then you will have a call to action of what you want the reader to do because of what you've just shared with them. Okay? So when you think about this, your final phase of your outline is taking everything that you could teach, pairing a story or an experience with that, and then separating those into individual chapters. And that is a really rough way to get your entire book outline done in a weekend. Now, is this going to be a perfect outline in 30 minutes? Maybe, maybe not. But what it is it's definitely, and we've done this with hundreds of people, it's definitely going to pull out so much of what you can say in a book and give you that stepping stone to have the right process, the right order, the right stories, the right material. And that's going to give you everything you need to set yourself up to have a great outline that will then be able to use to write a great book. Now, if you enjoyed this and if you like this framework, okay, you can literally get a free copy of my book, Big Idea to Bestseller, where I go in depth around each one of these phases. And all you have to do to get that is text the word free to 661-669-7363. Again, that number is 661-669-7363. And this is how you outline your book in a single weekend. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get to work. And I hope that this book becomes your reality very, very soon. Let's go.